All right. So I am so excited because we just did an interview with you. Like you interviewed me, and now it's my turn to interview you. So my name is Carrie. My trail name is Caboose for those who have not been on my channel before. But my channel name is One Step at a Time from Georgia to Maine. And that's because I completed the Appalachian Trail in 2024. And Sloggy did too. And so we were on the trail together and we met in July, I think July 28th. You had said that you'd seen it. And so now it's my turn to interview Sloggy. And so he's got some really cool stuff that I'm excited for him to share with you guys. But we're just going to chat like we've been with all the other interviews about our experience on the Appalachian Trail. So I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself as far as maybe sharing just some of your experience, the area that you're from, and then we'll just go on from there.
Sure. So my trail name was Sloggy, and my real name is Bobby, but I went by Sloggy on the trail. I live in central Maine. I can get to Baxter State Park in about an hour and 45 minutes due north, and I can step foot on the AT in about an hour and 20. And that would get me into the 100-mile wilderness. I've been hiking for many years, but not really backpacking. I didn't start backpacking until probably around 2011. And of course, I'm not very good at going slow into things. My first backpacking trip was the 100-mile wilderness, and I had never backpacked before. And my pack was 7 pounds, just the pack. I did it in like 6 days, which was crazy fast for me at that time. I lost 14 pounds in 6 days and was just physically a mess after, but I learned a lot. I learned what not to do.
Right.
And since then I backpack a lot every year. In 2016, I started volunteering for the Maine AT Club. So I maintain a section of the Appalachian Trail in the 100-mile wilderness, which is super cool. And I love going out there and meeting all the through hikers coming through. Of course,
Right.
when you meet them in the 100-mile wilderness, everybody's happy because they've got everything dialed in and they're going
Right.
to make it.
Right.
And really talking to all those hikers through the years really put it in my mind that it was something that I wanted to do someday. I didn't know if I'd ever get the chance, but I did. I was able to complete the AT northbound in 2024 and was really proud of doing that. And
Right.
now we're on to more stuff probably.
That's right. So I want to go back to the trail maintenance a little bit later on. But
Yeah.
so most of your experience is in the north, right?
Yeah. Mostly Maine, a little New Hampshire.
Okay. And so to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels this way, those were the two toughest, parts of the trail. So when did you start the trail?
I started on April 9, the day after the eclipse.
Okay. And wow, you really traveled fast then because I was in the notch by then. Not the notch, the knock. And
Yep.
so yeah, you traveled some. Compare the difference in the trail from like the Springer Mountain up to, going north compared to what you usually hike in.
Yeah, I mean it was a lot different, and I'd always heard people talk about the Appalachian Trail, like calling it like a footpath, and I just thought where they been hiking, but then I start in Georgia, and I'm like, this is awesome. There's no roots
Right.
and rocks, and it wasn't easy. Like you mentioned the knock, like going up out of the knock, it was a nice path, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
8 miles up all these switchbacks,
Right.
and I always said if the path is good if I think I could ride a mountain bike up it. And a lot of them were down there, but it was in no way easy. It was different, but it was
Right.
very nice hiking for sure down south. Where up north it's just you don't even think there's a trail. You're just trying to find the next white blaze in the
Right.
rocks.
Yeah. I always say that like down here when I hike, I can look up and look around. And when I'm on the Appalachian Trail, I really have to focus on what's in front of me so I don't trip and fall, which I did a lot anyways. But when you get up north, I mean, you really have to pay attention to where your feet are going because it's all rocks and roots. And
Yeah, especially
I
down,
yes,
especially when
yeah,
you descend.
yeah. And I wasn't expecting, I had no idea. Like I had no idea that the north was like that. I don't know, I was clueless. So what
Maybe
were
that
some,
was better.
what?
Maybe that was better that you didn't know because
Yes,
I
you're
knew and
probably
I was
right,
kind of like, oh
honestly.
man.
Yeah, you're probably right because you don't know what you don't know, and you can't get freaked out about it. So, what were some of your favorite sections of the trail?
Oh, wow. So many, really. I mean, I really loved, starting that time of year
Hmm.
in like around like north and south of Marion, Virginia. I just remember all the birds. Just that area, it was just incredible. I had this little bird app I was using, and I was sitting waiting for a shuttle, and you could hold the app up and it would like listen for birds,
Right.
and it found 11 different birds
Wow.
that were around, like
Right.
some
Was
I'd
that the
never even
Merlin
heard
app?
of. What's that?
Was that the Merlin app?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. And so that whole area down there, the birds and then the rhododendrons when they started. So I really liked Virginia in probably in total because everyone talked about the Virginia blues, but there was just so much there.
Right.
Uh, it was the time of the year, so everything you're walking through, and then also just McAfee Knob and Dragon's Tooth and all that, and
Right.
roller coaster. And then I really liked and I was really surprised by Massachusetts.
Me too.
Yes, I liked the trail, first of all, because you came into the state and you went due north. It didn't take you all
Right.
around. It just said, all right, just due north. The maintenance was awesome, I
Right.
thought. Uh, it was, and it was so funny, not to pick on Vermont, but like as soon as we stepped across the border, there was like trees down, and we got lucky. We didn't get a lot of mud, but the mud that was there, it was right across the border in
Right.
Vermont. So, and
Yep.
then of course, just New Hampshire. I had done the presidentials before, so I like New Hampshire. And then the 100 Mile Wilderness is just, I do that every summer.
Right.
I mean, that just felt like home on it.
Right.
Honestly,
For sure.
that's my favorite. I love doing that.
Right. That's your stomping grounds.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Massachusetts to me was enchanting. The very beginning of it was so beautiful. It kind of reminded me of, but even more intense was coming out into Klingman's Dome with all the moss and all that. Yeah, both of those areas. And you're right about Vermont. As soon as we stepped into Vermont, there was a puddle of mud, and it was comical, But we didn't get a lot of mud in Vermont. We didn't get a lot of mud until we got to New Hampshire.
Yeah, oh no, I agree. We felt the same way. You mentioned Klingman's Dome. Like, the day I went over that, it was like freezing rain,
Oh,
20 to 25 mile an hour winds, and I didn't stop the whole day because that was the only time. It was the worst day I had on the trail
wow.
because of the weather, and it was the only time that I wasn't like worried, but in my head I'm like, if I stop, like it was kind of a good setup for hypothermia, honestly.
Oh,
If people
wow.
didn't have the right stuff or they were out day
Yeah.
hiking, and I didn't even stop the whole day. I just kept moving to try to stay warm. That was definitely the worst day. So I
Wow.
didn't even see it. It was just a whiteout.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, we had great weather for that. And then when we came out into Newfound Gap and we crossed the street, they had trail magic set up for us.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
that was
I get a funny story about Newfound Gap. So we went by Klingman's Dome and it was just miserable. And
right.
we come down into Newfound Gap and it's just pouring rain. And there's the sign there, the North Carolina, Tennessee
Right.
sign or
Yep.
whatever. So I walk by that and I'm just miserable. I just go right by it. And there were these two ladies in a car, a little sedan, and they stop and the woman rolls down her window and takes a picture of me and then rolls up her window and starts to drive away. And I'm like waving at her. And I think she thought I was mad.
Oh.
And so she stops and rolls down her window. And I'm like, can you text me that picture? And I said, if I stand by this sign, will you take another one of me sitting in your
Oh,
car
right.
and text me that? And she's like, oh yeah, sure. Like, it was just funny that they just randomly saw someone really miserable hiking and wanted to
Right.
take a picture of him.
Yeah. Wow. What going through that area, did you go to that one campsite or it was a shelter where you had to hike almost like a mile in? I can't remember what it was. We stayed at it.
No, that was just south of Klingman's,
Right.
and I had this idea in my head. There's a coffee table book out there somewhere that has like a picture of every shelter on the
Right.
AT, and that shelter was the one that I just said to heck with it because I was not that day. I was not going to hike a mile in and a
Right.
mile out in that cold.
Yeah.
no, no way. So I gave up my goal of taking a picture of every shelter that day. So I know
Right.
exactly the one you're talking about.
We stayed there, but it was so crowded. We could barely, I mean, like we scrunched our tents into this one little section, three of us. Season one, my
Wow.
brother and myself. And I mean, it was packed. We were definitely in the middle of the bubble at that point. So, you started later. Did you find yourself in the bubble at all?
It was pretty crowded at first because I remember the second night I stayed at Gooch Gap Shelter,
Hmm.
and there was probably, and it was rain, it was really bad weather, and there were probably 12 to 14 people smushed in the shelter, and I think I counted 21 tents around.
Yeah,
So
that's a
it,
lot.
so yeah, so it was really crowded, and it stayed that day for a good week to 10 days. And then it wasn't because I hiked fast, but I didn't. But people started staying at hostels and things because the weather was so bad for that stretch
Right,
at the beginning. So people started falling off a little bit. So, I mean, the good thing about down south is because everybody starts down there, like the
right,
hordes of people, they do have a lot of space.
right. And they have a lot of hostels too.
They do, they do.
Yeah.
So that kind of spreads everyone out a little bit. But other than that, I mean, honestly, when I made it, and with other people to like Virginia and even Pennsylvania, it was pretty dead. We felt like we were kind of in between a bubble maybe at
Okay.
that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do trail days?
No, I was in Damascus I was there. I spent Monday night there and left Tuesday
Okay.
of that Friday, Saturday,
Right.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. There was a guy I was hiking with, Professor Milkshake. He was going to go back because he was actually on sabbatical doing a research project about the AT and the
Very cool.
guidebooks. So he had a shuttle back and he offered, but I was still maniacal in my head that day. I was like, no days off. I I can't go backwards. I
Yeah.
just have to keep hiking. But I did hit the second annual trail days in Bennington, Vermont.
How was that? We missed that one.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was a very small window. They ran the shuttle that went into town from like 11 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Right.
and the trail days was like 12 to 5.
Yeah.
But it was
I think that was
incredible.
my birthday weekend. We were in the Shenandoahs. We were in the first campsite or right around the Shenandoahs on my birthday.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. But Bennington, that was nice. It was they had great food. They set up all the food and everything and some displays and a couple of vendors right
right.
beside the rec center. And so you could get like a free shower and they gave you a towel and everything at the rec center.
Right.
And then that night they shuttled us to like a park, a nice open green area. And so we all set up our tents,
Nice.
and then they shuttled us. A bunch of us went to the movies
Oh, sweet.
that night, and then the next morning they had a huge breakfast, and then shuttled us back. So
Gotcha.
it was really awesome. And it wasn't anything we'd planned. We just happened to,
Right
you
time,
know,
right place, right place.
yeah, and saw it
Right.
in far
Yeah.
out and be like, hey, we're going to be there. And our
Yeah.
plan was just to go in and come out. And then we got in there and we're like, we'll spend the night.
Yeah. We went to Troutville. I think that's Troutville, Daleville. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
that one there.
we did that trail days. And it was kind of small, but it was still nice. Like the church group put on this amazing dinner Friday night, and we got to stay out in the baseball field. The only thing was that the train tracks were right behind the park. So that was, that came through at like 5 o'clock in the morning or something. But I want to go back to the birds for a second. They were so loud, and there were so many of them early on in the trail. And then once we got up north, we were like, what happened to the birds? Where do they go? Like, why don't they sing like they sing down south? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, a lot of the birds in the Northeast are, and I'm no bird expert, I'll say that, but they're more like feeder birds.
okay,
Like if you came to my house, I mean, we have 7, 8 different varieties of birds here, but
right,
out in the woods and things, you really don't get a lot of birds for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just
right.
the food sources or things like that, but I did miss that.
I did too. It was so, I mean, they woke me up probably at 5:30 every morning. And then once they were gone, I was still waking up at 5:30.
Yeah, I really liked that. I like
Me
the
too.
only bird I didn't like. I can't remember where I was, but some nights there'd be like a whippoorwill.
Oh, I love them.
But if I was trying to go to sleep, like
Right. Yeah, we used to have those out here in my neighborhood, and then they started cutting down all the pine trees, and we don't hear them anymore.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed the birds. And there was something else that you were talking about I wanted to come back to, but I can't remember what it was. Um, do you plan on doing trail days this year?
I was thinking about it. I don't know because I've got a couple things going on in that area. So
Mhm.
a friend of mine that I met on the trail, Huckleberry, he's opening
Right.
a new hostel right
Tell them
near.
about it. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, so it's huckleberrieshostel.com. And Huckleberry, great guy. He did the whole trail with his service dog, Wyatt. And he is a he did 3 tours in Iraq, wounded in combat twice. But he did the trail this year and he's opening that hostel there. And I think he's starting the soft open on March of this year. And it's I think he said 8 minutes from McAfee Knob,
Oh,
something like
great.
that. So
Yeah,
it's in the Catawba. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
that sounds right.
Forest area,
Hmm.
and yeah, so he's going to have tent sites and food and shuttles
Oh,
and
that's
things like
great.
that. So he's having a big reunion for the class of 2024 in June.
Oh,
And then I'm thinking about driving down from Maine and helping him a little bit in April.
nice.
So with trail days in May, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's because
it'll be like
I
three trips
prefer
down
to
the trail.
drive. It'd be a long drive, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I'll see what I have going on. Plus, I started shuttling
Oh, good
after
for
I.
you.
So, and I'm thinking with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy really asking people to do a lot of SOBO this year.
Right.
I'm thinking in May I may be really busy.
So do you want to give out
Baxter
that
probably won't
information?
be open. What's that?
Right. Do you want to give out that information?
Yeah, I'm in Far Out, Sherpa Sloggy. You can just find me. I contacted the Far Out folks, and they have me right in there.
Awesome.
So anybody can contact me. And I'm thinking of some people maybe because Katahdin's not usually open, at least in the past few years, till June 1st or very end of May. But I'm thinking maybe some people will start on the Golden Road there at A-Ball Bridge and go south maybe, or
Right.
it'll be interesting to see what the difference is this year. So
Right.
May may be a real busy month for me.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I'm planning on doing trail days, and I just purchased my yearbook.
Yeah, I just got that email.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
definitely
as
want to
soon as I
get that.
got
That's
it.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you send in the pictures?
Yes, I did. I sent in some summit pictures and things early, and then someone else I hiked with had sent in a bunch of group photos
Oh, good.
of
Yeah.
us. So I didn't want to double them up, but
Right.
yeah, I'm anxious to see that because a lot of the people, I mean, we have, like yourself and I mean, I don't know, I could probably come up with 15 or 20 people that I kind of know and remember
Right.
their trail name. But there's also a bunch of people that I met at the beginning that either went ahead of me and I never saw again, or I
Right.
stayed in front of the whole way. And, I forget some of those. I know the faces, but I forget the names. So it'd be cool
Right.
to put those things together with the yearbook.
Right. Now, was Huckleberry part of the Warrior Expedition group?
No, he wasn't.
Wow.
No, no, he just did it on his own.
Good for him.
Yep.
Yeah, I met
Yep.
so many of them, the combat vets that are part of that program. I just really, every time I think about it, I think so highly of that program. I think it's great.
I do too. No, I think it's awesome. I hiked for 2 days. There was a young guy, Monk, his name was, a
Oh, I met him.
big strapping kid, just a
Yeah.
salt of the earth person. I hiked with him for 2 days and we got caught in a storm the first day. And the next morning, I didn't want to get out of my tent because it was all dripping wet and stuff. And
Hmm.
he had packed up and he was walking by me and he's like, "Hey, Sloggy." I'm like, "Oh, good morning." I'm still in my tent. And he's like,
Right.
"I'm meeting some folks, that are affiliated with the expedition,
Right.
hike, and they're going to bring me like food and stuff." And they asked if I was hiking with any other members, and I said no. But he goes, "I'm hiking with this guy Sloggy," and they're like, "Oh, we'll get him something if he wants."
Oh, that's great.
So he's like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Large pepperoni pizza and a hot chocolate." So we get down there, and there's these three lovely ladies. They've got pizza and hot
Right.
chocolate and donuts. It was awesome. It was awesome.
We did when we were in the 100 Mile Wilderness. What is the road where they do the food drop at?
Joe
Where
Mary Road.
Joe Mary Road. We were going to Joe Mary Road to pick up our resupply from Shaw's. And we get there, and Zippers, who was part of the Warrior Expedition, I don't know if you met him or not.
Yep, I did.
Man, I don't know if you know, but he dislocated his shoulders twice on the Katahdin, and then had to have
Yeah.
surgery. So we were hiking along with him, and he was at the roadside, and a former Warrior Expedition hiker was doing trail magic there. And so we sat there probably for an hour, 2 hours waiting for our food drop. So we ate with them, and then the guy that brought the food drop brought us a pizza. So we ate the pizza, and then we hiked on our way.
Yeah, that's an awesome spot right there for a food drop or
Yeah,
trail magic. Or I'm sure I'm going to be up there a few times this summer for sure.
right. Let's go ahead and go right into that right now. Tell us what you do in the 100 Mile Wilderness.
Yeah, so I volunteer for the Maine Appalachian Trail Club, and I'm pretty psyched. We have our volunteer gathering once a year, and it's this coming Saturday.
Mhm.
So it's nice to get together with everybody. And so I started in my local paper. There was an article in 2016. It was like the end of the summer, and it just said they were looking for volunteers. And so I reached out to the club, the gentleman. Maine is actually, they break Maine into 5 different districts
Oh, wow.
because it's so many miles. Like
Right.
people always forget, Maine's like 280 some miles.
Yeah.
So they have 5 managers and then 5 assistant managers, and then so they just take care of. So I'm in what they call the Whitecap district. If you know the 100 Mile Wilderness, you'd go over Whitecap Mountain, and
Right.
it basically starts at the other side of Monson all the way to Joe Mary Road. It's about 60-ish miles. So, but anyway, they had a spot open in the 100 Mile Wilderness, and I called the manager and I said, I see you're looking for volunteers. He goes, yeah. He said, the 70s and 80s, there were waiting lists for people who wanted
Oh,
to volunteer. It was like coveted, and the sections were big, like 6, 7, 8, 9 mile sections people did. But as the volunteers, got older or didn't do it anymore, or
right.
they had a hard time, so they've really shrunk the amount of mileage. Like my section is 3.2 miles.
Okay.
So I have near, if anybody knows, Chairback Gap lean to, and then north to heading toward the Gulf Haggis and the Pleasant River, West Branch of the Pleasant River crossing. But I've been doing that since 2016. So I maintain the shelter. There's a brand new privy that just got built there this summer. So I'll be happy to maintain that. And we have a bear box, the first bear box ever in the 100 Mile Wilderness,
Oh, that's great.
or a mouse box. I mean, you can,
Right.
it probably, I've never seen a bear in the 100 Mile Wilderness
No?
in 13 years that I've been hiking it.
Oh, wow.
So, but it's great for mice too, those,
Right.
those bear boxes. So, but I really enjoy it. So the club asks volunteers to go up once in the spring and once in the fall. Obviously, in the spring, it's the most work because you've got all the winter damage and trees down.
Right.
And I typically go up as soon as the road. So I have like a 16-mile drive on a dirt road, and I park right in the Gulf Haggis area parking lot. And then it's 3.2 mile hike up. And I usually bring my son-in-law or buddies. I invite anybody who wants to come up with me,
Right.
carrying the chainsaws and things, and then work our whole, we'll work 6, 8, 10 hours along those 3.2 miles all the way up to the lean-to, and then spend the night at the lean-to. And we usually bring like deer meat or something and cook it over the fire. And there's not a lot of hikers because it's early May.
Right.
There's still sometimes a little snow, but not too much. But I just really enjoy it, and I think and people always appreciate it when
Right.
I'm out there and I see through hikers. And after doing the through hike,
Hmm.
once you get as of a certain age, you're not as bendy anymore, right? And just going under and over those
Yes.
logs and things, it's like
Yes.
it takes a lot of energy
Right.
to do that. And when you can just hike along and not have to worry about tripping on something
Right.
or climbing or going under something, it really it helps a lot, and
Right.
people appreciate it. So, and I know that too because I hike a lot. So it just makes it super enjoyable.
Right. And just to know that those people are going out there and volunteering their time with not, I mean, they're getting nothing else in return, like gratitude is, the best price. And so just making sure that you appreciate them. And yeah, I think it's huge. So, how many times a year do you go out?
Well, typically, so I did retire just this past February. So this summer will probably be the most that I've ever gone out because I'll have the opportunity. But I usually go out like five, six, seven times.
But you're only required to go out twice.
Twice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I enjoy it because I love seeing
Right.
the through hikers. I'll take, I don't do like huge, I'll definitely do more trail magic now, but because it's by the KI road, the Katahdin Iron Works road, and that's about 30-ish miles Nobo from Monson. So
Right.
no one ever does their food drop there because it just doesn't make sense. So it's a good place to do like, some fruit or
Right.
sodas or things like that, some simple stuff before they get the
Right.
big food drop at the Joe Mary Road.
Yeah.
So I'll try to definitely go out once a month. But like I said, with the shuttling and things, last year when I started the shuttle, I was pretty busy at the end of the year, actually. I just kind of threw my name out there. But I picked up a few people out in the 100-mile wilderness and things like that. So
So
it's,
you shuttled last year too when you finished the hike?
yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah, it was the first time I ever did it. Well, I got the idea from, well, there's the famous Sherpa Al and near Franklin,
Uh-huh. Yep.
North Carolina, and his
Yep.
son. We didn't get him the day we shut out, but his son's name was, oh, maybe Josh. I might be getting that wrong, or Jacob. But I was asking him about how it worked and stuff, and I'm like, wow,
Right.
that sounds cool. I would love to do that because there's not a lot of great public transportation from Bangor to Millinocket.
Right.
So it's sometimes it's pretty hard for folks to get around, or from Monson to Bangor, or vice
Right.
versa. So I had a lot of people contact me and need shuttles. So I did it at first just as a way to stay connected
Yeah.
to the
I can
trail.
understand that.
And it's cool when you pick up people in Millinocket because they just finished the trail, and it's about an hour and 40-ish minute ride to Bangor. So you just talk
Right.
with people who are all excited,
Yeah.
and you're helping them out too.
Right. Yeah. And Monson is where Shaw's is, correct?
Correct.
And so that's the last hostel that anybody can get before they complete the hike. So
Yeah, it's kind of like I liken it to the crossing there, Neil's Crossing, or
right, mountain
uh,
crossing.
Mountain Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
liken it to that because
Yeah.
they have an awesome gear emporium
Right.
at Shaw's, and then I mean the gear they had at Mountain Crossing, like that was crazy. The gear
Yes.
they had there, and a lot of people change out, and so for the Sobos, they get to go through the 100-mile wilderness, and by the time they get to Monson, they're like, okay, I need a new tent, I need a new this, that, I'm throwing
Right.
this out. So it's a good start to their trail to figure out if what they brought is going to work.
Right. I, a couple years ago, went to Mountain Crossing. They had these classes that they were offering. It was like $50 for a class. You went in, and on Friday night, they told you like your like gears, like equipment you needed, like things you had to think about as far as doing a through hike of the Appalachian Trail. And a lot of the people that work there are former through hikers. And so they're just sharing their knowledge with you. And then you get to stay in the hostel that night. And then the next day, you get a $50 credit in the mountain crossing. And so I did that, and that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. You get there and then you just blow it all on pizza. That
Yeah.
$50 credit. I remember I got there and that's the first thing we did was we ordered those microwave pizzas or whatever,
Right.
however they cooked them,
Right.
and it was the
Yep.
most amazing pizza ever.
Right.
So and that's kind of the way at Shaw's too. I mean, they do, the poet and hippie chicks. I mean, they
Oh,
do a great job there. I went up. I had a friend Pilgrim who I think you ran across.
right.
He was a little bit behind because of an injury, but when he got there, I went up and met him there for breakfast, and
Hmm.
they were great to me. They're like, oh yeah, they remembered that I was a Maine AT volunteer, and they're like, oh,
Right.
breakfast is on us, and they
Oh,
just do an
right.
awesome job up there.
Yeah.
It's just an awesome place for the people coming north, and then a good place to
Right.
hit first if you're coming south.
Right. Poet is from Florida. He used to be a teacher. And so him and I talked a little bit because I just retired as a teacher, but when he did his little speech after he dropped us off, he allowed me to videotape it. I was crying. I'm like, he's impacted me so much with the things that he was telling us, and he's really a really neat guy. So,
Yeah, no, I can't say enough about that place.
right,
It's just awesome, and and he's so, I mean, I'm sure it's hard work to run a hostel,
Oh,
but,
I'm sure,
just
especially when you do
talking,
it like
meeting
that.
all the people. And
Right,
again, especially the northbounders, when you get to Monson, that's like,
right.
it's just so exciting. I mean, well, it varies. I'm sure some people are just, I just want to get this over with. But I would say the
Yeah,
majority, we'll say over 50% of people are like, okay, well, maybe we want to slow down a little bit,
right,
and enjoy this last week or whatever it ends up being.
right. I just went through, I have a book that I wrote like every day, like where I stopped, how many miles I did, all that stuff. And I went through it the other day. I did not realize I stayed in as many hostels as I did. Do you know how many hostels you stayed in?
Yeah, I did. Let's see, the main road house in Stratton. It's probably easier if I go from the most recent to the oldest and go south. Um, let's see. Let's see. Main road house, Standing Bear. Um, oh, what's the real popular one? Mountain
Woods Hole,
Harbor.
Mountain Harbor,
Mountain Harbor. And what was the other? What was the one you just said?
Woods Hole Hostel.
Woods Hole. Yep, Woods
Yep,
Hole. Yep. So Main Road House, Standing Bear, Mountain Harbor, Woods Hole. I think that's it. I think it was just those four. And other than that, I spent almost I mean, a lot of nights in tents, and then a few motels.
right,
Franklin, North Carolina, we say little hotels, Super 8 and
right.
Daleville. But I think just those four. But there were definitely some that, um, but some of them, like I think you stayed at Station
We
19.
did.
But that
Yep,
was up the road. So you get to the road and you can go left to Mountain Harbor or right to Station
yep,
19. So, which they both sounded cool. It was just a
right,
coin flip. But no, I like the hostels. I kind of, as you get more north, they definitely kind of go away.
right.
Unfortunately,
That's why I'm excited about huckleberries.
yes.
I think that'll be great. We were
Yep.
able to stay at one of my a friend's house of mine in that area, and we got to slack pack a little bit. But I don't, like you said, the further north you get, the less hostels there are, and so there's not a lot to choose from, and there's not a lot of availability. So,
Right. Right.
but
I did stop in at a few though, like Uncle Johnny's. I spent like a
yeah, we
couple
stayed
hours
there.
there.
Yeah,
And I don't know where they're at. Obviously, with the storm,
right.
they got a lot of damage there.
Yeah.
But Uncle Johnny's, Around the Bend,
I
some
didn't
of
get
those ones. So I did get to experience them a little bit. Maybe, I took like a shower and did a load of laundry at Around the
right,
Bend. So it was cool to see them because a lot of these I'd just heard of.
right. So did
It was
you
cool to
hike
see them.
in, do all that stuff, and then hike out on the same day?
Yeah.
That's called a hero. Did you know that?
No, I don't know. It didn't
I
feel
didn't
like
know
a
that either,
hero.
but we did it in Hot Springs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So because it's hike in, eat, resupply, hike out. So it's called a hero. So we
Oh,
only did
wow.
that once.
Yeah. No, it was, and again, it goes back to me just wanting to keep going, head
Right,
down, kind of like the totally the attitude that you shouldn't have.
right.
But
Would you do it differently if you had to do it over again?
oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, slow
Yeah.
down.
I don't know if I would take more zeros, but I would take them earlier
Right.
for sure. I would take them earlier and kind of space them out.
Yeah.
Um, and then really just enjoy some things
Right.
along the way
Right.
that I don't feel like I missed out on too much, but those little side quests and things that
Right.
you can do to just enrich your hike are, I
Yeah.
mean, they're some of the greatest times I remember.
Yeah. I don't know that I felt like I missed out on, but I would have liked to. I think in hindsight, I would have liked to have gone slower just so I could have been out there longer.
Yeah.
I missed it once I got off the trail. So,
Yeah. I felt that way about probably by the time we got around maybe like the Stratton, the main roadhouse.
mhm.
Kind of got there and it hit me because I had done most of Maine before southbound.
Right.
I had a friend go Sobo in 2020. So
Okay.
I had met him at different parts. I did the presidentials and things like that. So once I got into like a familiar area, I'm like, oh, I know all this and I really want to slow down.
Right.
And a lot of it had to do with, I mean, you hiked with some special people. I
Right.
felt I hiked with some special people
Right.
too. And those are relationships that they don't end, but the bond and the
Right.
things you share end and probably and can never be replicated again. So those are the
Right.
things you don't want to end, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And it's, when you get home and you try to explain to people like what your experience is, it's really hard for them to associate with that because there's just no way. So,
No, no, not unless you're out there joined in, kind of tethered with the struggle.
yes,
There's,
grinding it out.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure to people it sounds, oh, that sounds terrible having to set up your tent in the rain, but
Mm-mm.
when you're doing it with a couple of friends and
Right.
you're all miserable,
Yeah.
it's yeah, you can't explain it.
Now, when you were in the 100 Mile Wilderness, did you do those side blue blazes to the waterfalls and stuff?
The Gulf Haggis?
Yes.
No, I didn't. I've done it many times.
Okay.
I did recommend it to my buddy Solar,
Okay.
uh, and he went in and did like half of it. There's actually it's about an 8 mile loop off
Right.
the AT, but you can go in and do about half of it, and then take a shortcut back to the AT. Which you end up skipping about a quarter mile or so. Like if you're a purist, like it wouldn't be that great because you're going to go up and then cut across and hit the AT back again a quarter mile north of where you
Right.
were. So if
Right.
you're a purist, you're going to have to walk back.
Right.
But unfortunately, well, fortunately, we hadn't had much rain.
Right.
And so the waterfalls, he was a little disappointed because the
Uh,
waterfalls weren't
it's funny
that
because
great.
we saw him and Solo in Monson at Shaw's, and
Yep.
we went out to eat with them, and he was showing us on Far Out the trail, and so that's what we did, and he was telling us that you told him about it, and so through you, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. No, I didn't know you
Yeah.
guys were there with them. Yeah, I had stayed. My father-in-law has a camp about 35 minutes from
Hmm.
Monson. So my family and grandkids and my wife, and then two other through hikers, Econoline and Dixon. We stayed at the camp, and Solo, they wanted to experience Shaw's, which
Right.
is cool. So they stayed one night at the camp with us. Then they're like, "Oh, we want to go check it out," and
Yeah.
so they stayed there. Yeah, I didn't know you guys were there, but
Yeah.
they were glad they did. I mean, it's an awesome little town.
Yeah. Yeah. They left earlier in the morning than we did, but they had been there the whole day before that, or whatever.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who is starting the Appalachian Trail this month. And so he doesn't have a trail name yet, but if he gets up and he makes it up that far, I'm going to give him your contact number if you're okay with that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
help them out, do food drop, or I tell anybody as soon as you get to Monson, like any help you need,
Okay.
please reach out. Yeah.
Yeah. He actually met us he's from Florida. Him and his wife were going to a wedding in Connecticut and happened to be right around where we were in New York at the same time. So they met us and brought like some freeze dried meals and electrolytes. And it was where you sleep behind the deli,
Oh
that,
yeah, I know exactly where you mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah, it's
took
right
us
after
out to
there's like a
dinner.
train stop. Is that near
Yeah.
the train stop?
I don't know if there's a train stop there. The right across from the deli was this and like I don't know, mining. They were mining or
Oh,
something.
there was the Quickcrete
Yes.
factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that pizza place.
Right. They had a pizza
Yes, yeah, I
place.
know that. Yeah, we stopped and ate
Yeah.
pizza there.
Yeah. And then right next to it was a breakfast place, like the same
Yep.
owners, but two different things.
Yeah.
So we slept behind that deli. Did you do
Yep.
the drive-in?
I did not.
I
It
didn't
just didn't
either.
line up.
Us either. I wanted to.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I was looking forward to, but it didn't make any sense. We would have had to walk like 5 miles from where we were the night before that, and it just didn't make any sense.
No, that and that right around that time where I was, it was well, where we all probably were around that time. It was really dry
Yeah.
too, and I just wasn't looking for more miles with not
Right.
drinking any water. I mean,
Right.
luckily we had a lot of caches and things, but
Yeah.
thankfully, but for the most part, I wasn't looking to do too much extra when it was that hot.
Right. Yeah. You were talking about like trail magic and trail angels. I knew that those existed, but I didn't know how valuable they were to us when we made it to one of those and what a uplifting experience that was for us. And so being in that, like where you're the hiker and you're experiencing this just makes you want to be that giver as soon as you can. Like I'm hoping when we do we're going to do a 5 day trip in the Smokies in March, the end of March, and I'm hoping that we'll have the opportunity to do some trail magic while we're there. So,
Oh, for sure, there'll be people there. That'd be
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
super excited about that. And, it all depends because my brother will be with me, but also during, on the way to trail days, because I'll be coming up, from the south to the north. So I'm hoping maybe I can do some there. I've
yeah,
started
that'd be
storing stuff
awesome.
away for that. So, but
Yeah.
what about like um, your favorite meal or favorite town food? Like we were always so excited when we go into town. Like we were, like did you have a favorite? Like I can't wait for another burger, or like what was your go-to?
One that comes to mind was right off the top of my head. I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I had to get a mail drop in Port Clinton.
Okay.
And my wife she did a lot of my logistics, thankfully, because, out there, like trying to like book
Yeah.
stuff on your phone with
Hmm.
half a bar was brutal. But she had got me a hotel room in Hamburg.
Okay.
So I got a shuttle into Hamburg. And on the way in, the young lady, I said, "Is there any good Chinese food places?" She's like,
Uh,
"Yes." And it was one of those Chinese places where you couldn't order what you wanted. It was only buffet.
uh,
And I'm like, okay, and you paid before you sat down. Like you went in and she's like, credit card. I'm like, how do you know what I want? She's like, you can only get one thing. It was the buffet. And it was the best Chinese food buffet I'd ever had in my life. They literally had you could get like ice cream, like all these
mm,
flavors of ice cream
wow.
and all these sweets and food. And
Right.
that was because you start hankering certain things.
Yes.
But I remember that because it was further north. Honestly, for the first probably, boy, 7, 8, 900 miles, I was not hungry. I did
No?
not have any kind. It was the oddest thing. I did not have any kind of hiker hunger whatsoever.
Season one was like that too.
Yeah, and I was because I got to the halfway sign. You know how the halfway sign kind of moves.
Right.
Well,
Yep.
I got to the official one for 2024, the little 8.511 picture.
Right.
And I was hiking with this lady. I only hiked with her one day, but she was a great lady. We had a great conversation, Moxie.
Oh yeah.
And she took my picture and I posted it. And immediately people reached out and said, like, are you okay? Like, you look really thin. So I
Uh,
got to the ice cream challenge
right.
place and the hostel beside it.
Right.
I forget the name of that.
I do too. It was, but it was right next to the pine furnace.
Yeah, it was the big house.
Yes.
Yeah, Pine Furnace. They had a scale, and I jumped on it, and I'd lost 42 pounds,
Wow.
which at that point was like 20. I can't remember the math, but it was like 40. It was I think over 20% of my body weight, which is a
Wow.
lot.
And that's only halfway through the trail.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I did the ice cream challenge the next
And
day.
did you do it?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I crush ice cream. I mean, that was no. I worked at an ice cream shop 3 summers in a row in high school. So
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. I knew I could do it. It was just like a matter of how long it was. I think I did it 20, and I didn't, kill myself. I think I had like 28 minutes or something
Gotcha.
maybe, or no record like the guy who did it in like 3.5 minutes.
Yeah. No, I couldn't do that.
But then as I got further north, my appetite started to come back a little bit, and I don't know if I ever got like hiker hunger, just like,
Right.
but I got hungry, and of course in the Northeast you started hitting like the delis, and you
Right.
way more access to food too, and that
Right.
probably would have been that probably was a little part of it too, just having more access to food.
Right. When we were at the Pine Furnace general store, we didn't want to do the gallon challenge because we thought we'd get sick. So we called it the lady challenge. We
What
did
was
a
that?
pint.
What was it?
A pint?
A pie. Okay,
We ate
yeah,
a
yeah.
pint.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were camping there. I didn't have a place to go, but Moxie, and she was traveling with Gazelle and
Yeah.
Dubs. Dubs, his name was Jeff from Montana. They
Right.
had a tent site, and they had taken it up with their tents, but the driveway part of it, for a car, and of course they didn't have a car, so
Right.
they let me tent with them.
Right.
So we did the half-gallon challenge. And I drank a bunch of water and then went to bed. Well, we got up the next day and a bunch of people were there, and they did it in the morning and then hiked that day.
Oh no.
And I don't think I mean, I didn't have any trouble doing it, but I don't think I would have wanted to do that
No, uh-uh.
and
Me
then
neither.
hike.
I think I
So
probably could have eaten the whole gallon, but I also had a hamburger and some fries.
yeah. But yeah, the food is definitely, it was what I spent. It was because I did a video about I broke down in a pie chart my costs. Food was like half the cost
Yeah.
of doing the AT for me,
Yeah.
by
I didn't,
far.
yeah, I didn't keep track of my money like that. I wanted to, but I was busy doing my videos and yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. My wife she had like a spreadsheet at home, and
Okay.
she tried to. I mean, I'm sure there were a few things
All
here
right.
and there
Yeah.
that she missed, but
Right.
for the most part, I used my Apple Pay and things like that that you
Right.
can kind of keep track of.
Right.
I didn't really take a lot of cash. I only had enough on me just to catch a shuttle or every now and
Right.
then. But most
Yeah.
people, luckily, you could Venmo or use Apple Pay.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Moxie and Gazelle hiked with Phoenix for a while. And
Okay.
so when we met up with them, because we crossed them a little bit on and off, especially in that area where they had those little stands set up on the side of the road where nobody was really working it, but it was like an honor system. Those are pretty cool. We were around them in that area, I think. And but
Yeah.
yeah, they were faster than us. And then there was that one campsite. I can't remember where we came from, but it was called the Backpackers campsite. It had a bathroom. You know what I'm talking about? And I
Uh,
think that might have
was that
been,
in Virginia? Was it the Dahlgrens
I think so.
backpacking?
Yes.
There was a men's shower and a women's shower,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
tent pads.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were there. They were on that site with us. And that might have been the last time that we were hiking at the same spot.
Yeah, they were fast. I hiked with them one day, and the
Yeah.
next morning when they got up, we were at the Pine Furnace General Store,
Right.
and they're like, "Sloggy, you ready?" I'm like, "No, goodbye." And I never
Yeah.
saw them again. Like
Yeah.
they did big miles, and I just
Right.
didn't. And I think we talked about it before, you and I just had like a sweet spot that I was physically and mentally
Right.
good with, and I didn't really do 20 miles or more
Right.
many times, and I don't you don't have to. I mean,
No.
you can
Mm-mm.
line up your hike however you want most of the time. So
Right. I want to go back to Hamburg. When you came down Hamburg, we stayed at the microtel there. But
yes, I did
is that where
too.
you stayed?
Yep.
Okay, so I had poison ivy at that point.
Ooh.
And so, but that's a totally different story. But we were coming down that big, like rock stairs. That was kind of sketchy.
It
And
was right before the train tracks.
right,
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
But there was a gentleman that was at the microtel too, him and his wife, and they were an older couple. He fell down that.
Yeah.
And luckily he didn't get seriously hurt. He had a couple cuts and some bruising, but you could have, I mean, he could have really hurt himself. But
Yeah.
that was crazy. That was pretty steep. It,
Yeah. I went slow down
yeah, I did
all the
too.
time. Like I
Yeah.
just uh it might I mean, I used to be, I don't know if I'd call it competitive hiking, but I just never wanted to fall behind. But as I've got older, and I just do my thing,
Right.
and I'll
My
catch
knees,
up with people. I
right,
don't like to stop, and I think that's where I'm able to maybe hike with some people. Like my buddy Solar, I hiked with. Like he was a much faster hiker than me, but I would catch up by the end of the day usually,
right,
or maybe one or two times because I don't like to stop. But like those, descending and things like that, it's just,
right.
I mean, you catch a toe in some of those places and you're toast. You could
Yep.
ruin your hike in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I caught my toe a couple times and I'm grateful that I didn't get really hurt.
Yeah.
So, and it like when I was going down on some of those big descents, my legs would get to a certain point and then my knees would be like, this isn't feeling very good. Thank you for watching. I'm getting so many good comments about people enjoying these post AT chats. And so Sloggy's was pretty long. And so I divided, there's my cat, divided it into two parts. And so we just concluded part one. and part two will be coming soon. So I'm so glad you guys are joining us and sticking with me on this. And yeah, hopefully we're giving you some good information and you're enjoying us looking back on our trail days and all the things that we encountered. So thank you again, and we'll see you on part two.